Hello, everybody. We just watched that major presidential debate. Emily, unfortunately, had to step away, but three of us will hold down the fort. I'll be extra loud, all right? Double of the analysis. I'm sure that's not a problem for me. But in general, certainly something, some major moments. We've got a couple of clips and other things that we can break down for everybody. We will be taking some questions throughout the stream from our premium subscribers, so make sure you sign up, breakingpoints.com, if you want to be able to take advantage. But before we get to that, and even to some of the clips, why don't we just give our general impressions? Krystal, what do you think?
She came in wanting to make this a referendum on Trump, and she succeeded.
Yes.
She basically called every shot in terms of what the topics, what the focus would be, what he would have to respond to. She maintained an affect of laughing in his face and rolling her eyes. He was pissed off and angry almost from the jump. And so, I think for her, this was about as good a performance as possible. She was well prepared and took it seriously and took him seriously.
Yes.
And I don't think that he took her seriously. And it showed. He took the bait on every, whether it was his rallies or his indictments or even the Central Park Five or his net worth that he inherited from his dad. He was chasing after every single ball that she was throwing.
Yeah, let me pick up on that because I think this is a really key point, and it's one where I can see amongst our right-wing audience, the ones that remain and others, is there's a tremendous amount of outrage about the moderators and about ABC. And I think we'll talk about this, about how the fact that these moderators did interject multiple times to quote-unquote fact-check Trump. Many of the questions were, frankly, ridiculous in my opinion. Like, Kamala, have you ever met with Putin? It was like, come on, what are we doing here? Okay,
bless you.
Let's put that aside. Complaining about moderators is cope when your candidate also you had multiple opportunities where you took the bait, where you whiffed on the best answers, where Kamala, what I want to pick up on from what you said, was totally in control. Every single time it was her worst issue, she puts a little bit of bait in there that Trump is going to pick up on, and he runs with it. The border section was infuriating to me. Watching and waiting. This is the part where Trump is leading against Harris as much as Harris is leading Trump on abortion. And I haven't even mentioned Trump's disastrous abortion performance.
Yeah, we got that coming too.
We will have that coming as well.
Bad.
But actually, that's a perfect example when I put them side by side. On the abortion one, Trump is all over the place, giving the worst answers humanly possible. All the stuff that's she's tried to do previously, none of it has worked. He doesn't try and bait Kamala or move the direction. Kamala brings up a border. The very first border question, she starts talking about his rally size. Now we're litigating rallies during the damn border section. And then during every single other one, which was very good for very good for Trump, any issue area, Kamala lays as much bait in there as possible, and Trump takes it and he takes it and he whiffs it. He validates every concern that she drops of he only cares about himself by litigating his rally size instead of talking about the border, and litigating his inheritance instead of talking about, well, I don't even remember what that section was.
I think that might have been about her flip-flopping.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're right. That's what it was. It was about fracking and flip-flopping. And I'm sitting here losing my mind, being like, dude, what are you doing? And so, in general, yes, were the moderators biased? Yeah, I think so. But, you're just going to come across as a whiny baby, only focusing on that. When you went into this, you voluntarily accepted, and honestly worse, even within that bad framework, they gave you a chance to shine where you could have if you wanted to. You've been in many biased debates before, and he screwed it. I mean, he absolutely whiffed it on every major issue that was best for him.
I want to get Ryan in, but real quick, what that reminded me of, remember the famous Newt Gingrich moment where John King asked him this question about, he had asked his wife for an open marriage while she had cancer. And, I mean, it was a horrible thing he did, right?
Yeah.
But they open up with this question.
Right.
And Newt Gingrich goes in on the moderators and turns it into a great moment. If you're Donald Trump, you come in knowing the moderators are probably going to be asking her easier questions, be doing a little fact check. Trump at the top of his game not only handles that, but turns that into an asset.
Yeah, he's a deeply wounded man. For him,
comes across,
for him not to be able to let anything slide.
Nothing.
Even with the presidency in his grasp.
Yes.
The depth of insecurity he must feel in whatever soul he has inside of him. to not just. Your point is exactly right. They're talking about her flip-flops.
Right.
They're talking about the border. It's a 90-minute debate. These are going to be the rounds where you have to score the most amount of points.
Right.
Absolutely.
They're all tilted in your favor.
You're just pummeling her in these rounds. Instead, they're not leaving my rally earlier.
Right.
They don't even go to her rallies.
Yeah, they actually get busted.
In fact, they're fake. Like he
What are
went
we
into
doing?
the fake thing.
Yes,
Like they're paying fake AI people to go to her rallies. And yeah, exactly. Then you're like, it's like, what are we even talking about now? I don't remember that it was actually
during the border
About a
section.
flip-flop
During the
question or
border
whatever.
section, they were litigating Donald Trump's cases. What? Excuse me?
Right, because
Excuse me?
she took the opening
Yeah.
of him saying something about
About
criminals
migrant crime. Yeah.
to be like, let me tell you about criminals.
yeah.
This guy right here. And of course, he goes, all in. And, same thing. The January 6th section was also disastrous for him because he gets asked the question.
Oh my God.
He
said
gets
was
asked,
joking.
He
when
gets
said he
asked
lost
the
by a whisker.
question. Okay, you said for a long time that
Yeah.
you won by a landslide. In the past several weeks, you said, that you lost by a whisker and seemed to admit that you lost. No, I didn't admit that. I was being sarcastic. I won by a landslide. And then goes in, though the court cases, and they were biased, and there was so much evidence. I mean, again, spending time and energy relitigating one of the things people hate about you. No, I mean the other thing about the demeanor of the two of them, I think, was important as well because a lot of this is optics, and one of the things we said is she needs to maintain this sort of like rolling her eyes, being above the fray, looking down her nose, making him small. And she did that. Her facial expressions were very relaxed. She was the one that was having fun at his expense. That's a real role reversal. If you think back to how much fun he had at Hillary Clinton's expense, how much fun he had at Lil Marco's expense, how much fun he had at low energy Jeb Bush's expense. He was not having any fun up there tonight. And, that's one of his his ability to play to an audience, play to a crowd. That is his superpower, and that was wholly absent tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And
Go ahead.
and that's hard to do, for her to kind of ridicule him without looking petty or like a jerk. Like there's a very fine line to walk there. And she didn't really come off as a jerk at all. Like she came off as like exactly like you said. Like she hit that well.
Yeah.
And for people who didn't follow the Lex Friedman interview or didn't listen to the Lex Friedman interview, he's one of these guys who is like, I love a lot of things about you, but I don't like January 6th. I don't like that you challenged the election. Why can't you just say that you lost? And clearly either he was ready to pander or his advisors were like, please, he's gonna ask you about this. Please just say you lost. And he finally says, I lost by a whisker.
Right.
And he was absolutely not being sarcastic.
Right.
Anybody
He was not.
No,
You're
he was not
absolutely
being
right.
sarcastic.
I listened to it. I listened to it multiple times because it's genuinely kind of a historic moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe this is a new strategy.
putting this behind him.
And then, I mean, this is the thing. And I'll say this too. JD just today did the All-In Summit, and they asked him, would you have certified the election? He's like, no, I would have had an alternate state. I'm like, okay, here we go. Like, it's like, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to do 2 months before the election. Okay, this is it. This is what we've decided to go with 2 months before the election. The number one reason why a lot of suburban people voted against you in 2022, right? Arguably one of the huge hits on him in that race in Ohio.
I can't really blame JD because I think a big part of the reason he got the vice presidential gig is because he had said that before.
Totally, Krystal.
And there's that's why he's in the slot. So he's like, this is my job to stick with
How about
this
we just don't say it? How about we just talk about the border again? We're like, oh, that's an interesting thing. We should talk about the border.
And Trump could have told JD, look, I know you've said that and I got you on the ticket, but we're done with that. We're moving on.
And another thing is that he inexplicably disavows JD Vance, who gave him the greatest layup of all time. And JD said, yeah, he would veto a national abortion ban. So they asked him about it, like, hey, JD says you're going to veto a national abortion ban. And he's like, well, in fairness, we hadn't discussed it. Yeah, let's keep the door open to a 6% policy. What are we doing here? It's like every single level, the calculation, the Trump, the calibration was gone. It was the reactive Trump, the angry Trump. It was totally not in control. I can already guarantee you he's just going to complain about the moderators. I think there's a high likelihood that he does not participate in another debate after what happened here.
Would be another win for Kamala.
Which would be a massive win for Kamala, who has to memorize a bunch of scripted, baited answers, right? Gets the mods on her side.
Instead.
Boom, yeah, and now you just go rally for 2 more months, maybe do one more bullshit interview with Dana Bash, and you know, that's it. So I just can't get over this.
I would think some people also probably noticed, if they're voting on this abortion question, that his 2 points clash. Like he says, he really believes on a moral level it should be left to the states. Then he also won't say that he'd veto a national abortion ban.
Right.
That's not leaving it to the states.
Yes, that's right.
I don't even really understand why he is sticking on this.
Yeah.
Like, J.D. Vance is actually very, like, what he said in the past, he actually embraces
He's a
all the
right-wing
fringe
Catholic.
views on abortion.
If he
like,
can get
he
there,
is
why can't you?
Right.
exactly.
So J.D. Vance can be like, no, we're good. We're not going
Right.
to. And you can't. I genuinely don't understand that, especially because he clearly knows he's got a problem on abortion. He clearly, you know, as soon as Roe versus Wade was overturned, he knew it was going to be a problem. He was all over the place on this Florida amendment, and it was a mess. Since we're talking so much about abortion, we have a little bit of this exchange. So let's go ahead and play it. This is D3, guys, if we could play a little bit of this exchange on abortion.
Your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
He went on this long tangent, too, about student loan debt. I mean, I know what he's trying to say, which is like, okay, well, you claim you're going to codify Roe, but you're not going to have the votes to do it. It is an opportunity.
You actually got through that.
I couldn't figure out, like.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
You're promising things and you won't be able to deliver them.
Right. And I mean, listen, I would love for Kamala in that moment to be like, that's why I'm going to get rid of the filibuster so that we can codify Roe versus Wade. But she, in this section, did the polar opposite of what Trump did, like in the border section, which is the stronger issue for him.
Yes.
She extended the conversation about abortion. She kept going in.
As long as we can.
She kept going in on it, going back to it. And then he would feel like, oh, I got to respond in some kind of a way. And she brought up visceral examples, and he kept saying, you know, oh, everybody wanted this to be done. And she said, no, those women who were bleeding out in parking lots, they did not want this. The majority of the country doesn't want. That's why in red state after red state, they chose freedom, she said, is how she framed it. And the other thing that I kept thinking about in this section, Brian, is the way that Biden handled the abortion answers in the last debate. Do you guys remember this?
Yes,
he finished by talking about immigrants raping people.
Yes,
right.
yes, he did. And now Trump is the one who's like, you know, bringing up his own worst issues. But yeah, and Biden gets asked the abortion question last time, and everyone's like, all right, well, this is the layup for him. And he starts talking incomprehensibly about an undocumented immigrant raping someone. You're like, what? What is
I got some fun
here?
breaking news here. Kamala's campaign will now ask for another debate, according to the Washington Post.
Okay.
Yeah, I would too. You know, I certainly would too after whatever we all the hell just witnessed. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show. Help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.